Morning routines were always a battle. Becky Wilson took a deep breath and reminded herself to be patient. "Amy, put your shoes on. How many times do I have to tell you?" Her 5-year-old daughter remained seated on the living room sofa and tossed her pink shoes onto the floor. "No. I don't want to go to school." Becky glanced at the clock. They had to leave in 15 minutes. She crouched down in front of her daughter and gently took Amy's small hands in hers. "Honey, today is art day. Remember how your teacher said everyone would be painting?" Amy's angry expression softened slightly. Art was her favorite. "Really? Really? It was in the note from your teacher yesterday, remember?" Becky said, gently stroking her daughter's golden curls. "Now, put your shoes on. And then you can paint something beautiful." Amy reluctantly began slipping her feet into her shoes. Becky hurried to the kitchen to finish packing the lunchbox. Fruit, sandwich, yogurt. All organic, with as little sugar as possible. And don't forget the Pear-Shaped note that Amy loved. Being able to work from home as a graphic designer was a blessing for Becky as a single mother. She could respond to unexpected calls from school and could incorporate Amy's piano lessons and swimming classes into her schedule. Of course, there were nights when she worked late to meet deadlines, but she could still prioritize spending time with her daughter. "Mom, can you braid my hair?" Amy returned to the living room, pushing her hair back. "We don't have time, honey." "I'll do it in the car." Becky grabbed her keys and headed for the door. As they reached the parking lot, they saw a man waving from across the way. "Good morning, Becky." "Good morning, Amy." "Uncle Mike." Amy shouted happily. Mike Foster approached them carrying a small paper bag. "Heading out. These are cookies I baked yesterday. I saved them for Amy." Becky smiled, though she felt a bit uncomfortable. Mike was a man who had moved in next door 6 months ago. He was always kind, helping with yard work and occasionally bringing homemade treats. Amy adored him, but lately, his kindness seemed to be crossing a line. "Thank you, Mike. But we're in a hurry." "We're running late for school," Becky politely declined. "Of course, I'll leave them by your door later." Mike showed understanding, but his gaze lingered on Becky longer than usual. "Would you like help with your garden this evening? The roses look like they needed pruning." "That's all right, thank you. I'm planning to do it myself this weekend." Becky hurried Amy into the car. As she pulled away, she caught a glimpse of Mike still standing there in her rearview mirror. He was perhaps too kind. Becky had no interest in romance. Her heart had been hurt enough since her divorce from Richard 2 years ago. "Mom, I wanted Uncle Mike's cookies," Amy said, adjusting her seatbelt. "Later, honey. Remember, Dad is picking you up after school today, okay?" Amy's face brightened. "Yes. We're going to the park." When they arrived at school, Becky quickly braided Amy's hair as promised. "There you go. Have a wonderful day, honey." "I love you, Mama." Amy wrapped her small arms around Becky's neck. "I love you too." Becky kissed Amy's cheek. After watching Amy run toward her classroom, Becky sighed. Today would be another busy day. The deadline for a new client's logo design was approaching. On her way home, after stopping at the supermarket, Becky noticed an unfamiliar car parked in her driveway. It was her ex-husband Richard's car. He was standing on the front porch, clearly irritated as he fiddled with his cell phone. "Richard, what are you doing here?" "Amy's at school." Becky approached, carrying her shopping bags. "I know." Richard looked up, softening his expression. "I came to talk to you." Becky cautiously invited him into the living room. Richard sat on the sofa and clasped his hands together. He remained an attractive man who worked at a law firm. He always carried himself with an attitude that suggested he knew everything. That was one of the things that had destroyed their marriage. "You're home early today," Richard said. "How's the new job going?" "Fine," Becky answered briefly. "What did you want to talk about?" Richard straightened his posture slightly. "It's about Amy. I need to change our weekend plans. Again." "You just changed them last week." Becky couldn't hide her dissatisfaction. "I have work, an important meeting with a client." Becky sighed. "Fine. But Amy was looking forward to it." "I'll make it up to her." Richard stood up and looked out the window. "By the way, you seem to be getting along well with that neighbor of yours." Becky was confused. "Mike? He's just a neighbor." "Is that so?" "Seems like he gives Amy treats every morning." "How do you know that?" Becky's wariness increased. Richard shrugged. "Amy mentioned it. And I happened to see you talking to him." "Happen to?" "You seem to happen to be around a lot lately. Last week at the supermarket, before that at the library." "I'm just concerned." Richard's voice hardened again. "I worry about your and Amy's safety." "We're fine." "Don't worry." Becky tried to end the conversation. "Anything else?" Richard silently took out his phone and checked something. "No, that's it. I'll come Monday instead of Friday. Let Amy know." After he left, Becky stood by the window for a while, deep in thought. Richard's behavior was becoming increasingly strange. He had always been jealous, but it felt like he was still monitoring Becky's life after the divorce. And the level of detail he knew about her daily routine was unsettling. Looking at the clock, she had 2 hours before it was time to pick up Amy after school. Becky brewed a cup of coffee and sat down at her computer. She tried to focus on the client's logo design, but the strange conversation with Richard kept distracting her. Looking out the window, she saw Mike watering the shrubs in his garden. He turned around, noticed Becky watching, and waved with a big smile. Becky returned a small wave and closed the curtains. "My head itches." While washing the dinner dishes, Becky listened to Amy's voice coming from the bathroom. Her daughter had been making the same complaint for about a week. Initially, Becky hadn't been concerned. Children sometimes scratched their heads, and head lice outbreaks weren't uncommon in kindergarten. But Amy's discomfort seemed to be increasing day by day. "I'll be done soon, and then we'll take a bath," Becky replied, drying her hands. "I'll use the princess shampoo tonight." The lavender-scented children's shampoo was Amy's favorite. Bath time, which was usually a hassle, became a bit easier with the promise of this special shampoo. After putting away the dishes, Becky prepared the bathroom. She filled the tub with warm water, floated Amy's favorite duck toy, and placed the special shampoo within reach. "Amy, the bath is ready." Little footsteps ran down the hallway. Amy appeared in her pajamas, clutching her favorite dolls in both hands. "Can my dolls take a bath too?" "Not today, honey. The dolls take too long to dry," Becky explained gently. "Besides, tonight Mom is going to give your hair a special washing." Amy reluctantly placed her dolls on top of the laundry hamper. "But they can watch, right?" "Of course." After settling Amy in the bathtub, Becky slowly poured warm water over her shoulders. Amy played with the duck toy, occasionally scratching her head. Normally, Becky would caution her not to touch her head with dirty hands, but tonight she was worried. "Mom, hurry up with the shampoo," Amy urged. "All right, close your eyes." Becky poured water over her daughter's golden curls, watching as the wet hair clung to her back. Amy's hair was secretly a point of pride for Becky. Those beautiful curls, inherited from Richard's side of the family, seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Taking the shampoo, Becky began gently massaging Amy's scalp. Does that feel good? Yes, but it itches here. Amy pointed to the right side of her head. Becky focused on the indicated area, washing more carefully. Then, her fingers felt something hard. What? Amy didn't seem to notice. Mom, it got in my eyes. I'm sorry, I'll rinse it right away. Becky quickly poured water, but simultaneously explored the foreign object with her right hand. It was definitely there. Small and hard. Taking the shower head, she slowly rinsed Amy's hair while trying to get a better look at the object. Amy, let Mom see your head for a minute. Is there still shampoo left? No, but I want to check something. Can you tilt your head a little? Amy tilted her neck as instructed. Becky parted the damp hair and carefully examined the scalp. There was a small black object entangled in the hair. Her first impression was that it might be an insect or some dirt, but upon closer inspection, it was clearly something artificial. It seemed to be attached to the hair with a small hook. What is this? Becky murmured. What's wrong, Mom? Amy's voice held a note of anxiety. Nothing, honey. Just something tangled in your hair. Becky maintained a calm facade. Mom will get it out. She gently tried to remove the object with her fingers, but it seemed more firmly attached than expected. When she applied a bit more force, Amy complained of pain. Ow! Mom, don't pull. I'm sorry, Becky immediately withdrew her hand. It's okay, we won't force it now. She carefully rinsed away the last of the bubbles with the shower and wrapped Amy in a towel. After drying her whole body, she used another towel to gently press the moisture from her hair. Normally, she would use a hairdryer, but tonight she wanted a better look at the object. Amy, would it be okay if we skip the hairdryer tonight? Let's try letting it air dry. But it's cold, Amy complained. Let's get your pajamas on, and then I'll make you some hot chocolate. How about that? Amy's face brightened at the special offer. With marshmallows. Of course, Becky smiled. While Amy was putting on her pajamas, Becky took a flashlight from the drawer. She carefully parted Amy's hair, trying to get a better look at the object. It was definitely artificial, like a small black disc. When she shined the light on it, she could see a faint metallic glint. What on earth is this? Amy returned to the room, and Becky quickly hid the flashlight. Honey, how long has your head been itchy? Since the day Uncle Mike gave me cookies, I think, Amy answered innocently. Something froze inside Becky. Did Mike touch your hair? I don't remember, Amy shrugged. You said you'd make hot chocolate. Of course, I'll make it right away. While preparing the warm drink in the kitchen, Becky's mind was in turmoil. What was that thing attached to Amy's hair? How did it get there? Was Mike involved, or was it Richard? That night, after Amy had fallen asleep, Becky remained restless. She searched the internet for small black object attached to child's hair, but found no useful information. She resolved to take Amy to a dermatologist the next day, even if it meant canceling work. Prompted by the receptionist's gentle voice, Becky rose from the waiting room. It was fortunate that she had called first thing in the morning and secured an afternoon appointment slot from a cancellation. Let's go, Amy. Becky took her daughter's hand. Amy jumped down from her chair and placed her small hand in her mother's. It smells nice here, she said. Indeed, Dr. Green's clinic always had a subtle citrus scent. They were guided down the hallway to the examination room. Bright children's pictures adorned the walls, and a small toy box sat in the corner. Amy immediately headed toward it, but Becky guided her to the examination table. Dr. Green will be here soon, so let's wait a moment. Within 5 minutes, there was a knock at the door, and Dr. Green entered. The female doctor in her 50s greeted them with her usual warm smile. Several colorful pens peeked out from the pocket of her white coat. "Hello, Amy," she said kindly. "What seems to be the problem today?" "My head itches," Amy answered frankly. "But Mom said she found something." Dr. Green shifted her gaze to Becky. "Can you tell me more about it?" Becky concisely explained the previous night's events, Amy's itchy scalp, the black object she had found during shampooing, and her unsuccessful attempt to remove it. She could feel her voice trembling slightly. "Let's take a look." Dr. Green pulled over a specialized magnifying glass with a light. "Amy, could you tilt your head a bit?" "I won't hurt you." Amy tilted her head as instructed, and the doctor carefully began parting her golden curls. Becky placed her hand on Amy's shoulder, applying gentle pressure to reassure her. Dr. Green's movements suddenly stopped. Her expression changed, and she furrowed her brow. After a moment of silence, she murmured quietly, "This is not something you'd normally find in a family home." Becky's chest tightened. "What is it?" The doctor seemed to be carefully choosing her words. "Amy, do you see those lovely pictures on the wall? Could you tell me about them?" While Amy was distracted by the pictures, Dr. Green moved closer to Becky and whispered, "This is an electronic device. Likely a listening device." Becky was speechless. She felt as if the world was spinning. "Listening? I can't say for certain based just on my observation," Dr. Green continued calmly. "You should contact the police. They can identify exactly what this is." "But how?" Becky's mind went blank, and she couldn't complete her sentence. "First, let's remove this. It seems designed to be entangled in a child's hair, but with the proper tools, we should be able to remove it without causing pain." Dr. Green called for an assistant and instructed them to bring the necessary tools. Amy was happily talking about the colors in the pictures, unaware of the adult's tension. "I won't hurt you, so stay still," Dr. Green said gently to Amy. "Your mom is right here." With utmost care, the doctor used special tweezers to carefully detach the black device. Amy showed slight discomfort but quickly settled down. "There, it's out." Dr. Green placed the small black disc-shaped object in a transparent plastic container. It was about 5 millimeters in diameter with something like a thin wire attached. Becky stared at it, overwhelmed by a mixture of fear and anger. "How do you feel now, Amy?" the doctor asked in a cheerful voice. "A little better," Amy answered. "But it still itches." "That's natural. It might take some time, but it will get better." The doctor handed Amy a colorful sticker. "A reward for being brave." Dr. Green gestured for Becky to move to a corner of the room. While Amy was playing with the sticker, she continued in a hushed voice. "You should contact the police. This is clearly illegal." Who would do such a thing?" Becky's voice was shaking. "That's for the police to investigate." The doctor placed a hand on her shoulder. "If you give me permission, I can call them for you." Becky took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Various thoughts were swirling in her mind. Who had attached a listening device to Amy's hair? For what purpose? For how long? And the most terrifying question, who had been listening? "Please," she finally said. "Please contact the police. I'll handle the procedure." Dr. Green placed the container with the device on the desk and picked up the phone. "Detective Craig is trustworthy. He specializes in cases involving children." Amy jumped down from the examination table and came to her mother's side. "Mom, are we done? Can we go get ice cream?" Becky tried to smile, but her facial muscles felt frozen. "Just wait a little longer, honey. The grown-ups need to talk." After a brief phone call with the police, Dr. Green gave them detailed instructions. "Detective Craig will be here shortly. He said they'll prioritize this case since it concerns a child's safety. Hearing those words, the weight of reality hit Becky. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, but a clear invasion of her and Amy's privacy. A listening device. A listening device hidden in a child's hair. Unable to organize her thoughts, she hugged Amy tightly. "It's okay, Mom's here for you." 20 minutes later, Detective Craig arrived. He was a man in his 50s with a calm demeanor, his voice quiet but filled with steady confidence. While Amy played in another room, Becky explained the situation in detail. The detective examined the listening device, took photos, and placed it in an evidence bag. This isn't an ordinary commercial product. It's quite a sophisticated device. Suddenly, Richard's image flashed in Becky's mind. His unnatural behavior after the divorce, his detailed knowledge of Becky's life, gathering information through Amy. And simultaneously, the image of overly kind neighbor Mike. "Is this Mr. Richard Wilson?" Detective Craig's voice was calm, but his eyes sharply observed the ex-husband. In a small interrogation room at the police station, Richard sat nervously in a chair. His lawyer was beside him. "This is some kind of mistake," Richard said. "The idea that I would plant a listening device on my own daughter is insane." "But you were surprisingly well informed about your ex-wife's activities," the detective said, looking at his notes. "According to Becky, you had an unnaturally detailed knowledge of her daily routine." "I'm a lawyer. I'm just observant." He made no effort to hide his irritation. "Besides, Amy tells me everything." The interrogation continued for nearly 2 hours. Richard presented an alibi, claiming he was in another city for an important meeting on the day the listening device was discovered. His testimony was later verified, and it was confirmed that he indeed had an alibi. Meanwhile, at a police station on the opposite side of town, Becky was speaking with another detective while Amy sat with her. She stared at the coffee in her hands as she explained the events of the past few months in chronological order. Richard's behavior, and also about neighbor Mike. "Tell me more about Mike Foster," female detective Morrison said. "He moved in 6 months ago. Lives alone and is very kind. But..." Becky chose her words carefully. "Lately, I've felt his kindness was becoming a bit excessive." "In what way?" "He shows up almost every morning, bringing homemade treats or offering to help with the garden. Amy likes him too, but..." Detective Morrison wrote something in her notebook. "Did Mr. Foster have any opportunity to touch your child's hair?" Becky pondered. "I haven't seen it directly, but yesterday Amy said her head started itching after Mike gave her treats." The investigations proceeded simultaneously, and Richard's claims were substantiated. Security camera footage and multiple witnesses confirmed that he was indeed 100 miles away on the day in question. Due to insufficient evidence, Richard was released. That night, Becky was putting Amy to bed at her sister Sarah's house. On police advice, they had decided to temporarily leave their home. "How long will this last?" Amy asked with sleepy eyes. "I didn't get to say goodbye to Uncle Mike." Becky kissed her daughter's forehead. "Just for a little while. We'll be home soon." After Amy fell asleep, Becky was talking with Sarah in the living room. The police said they're investigating Mike's background. Sarah picked up a wine glass. "If Richard has an alibi, then suspicion falls on Mike, doesn't it?" "But I don't understand the motive," Becky said with a tired face. "Richard might have reasons to monitor our lives." "But a neighbor..." Just then, Becky's cell phone rang. Richard's name was displayed. "Richard," she answered cautiously. "Becky, listen," his voice was more serious than ever. "I've been released by the police. I didn't do this." "I know. I heard there was no evidence. I'm Amy's father. I want to protect her." He paused for a moment. "Do you know about that neighbor?" The police are apparently investigating him too. Becky's chest tightened. What do you know? I can't say much over the phone. Could we meet tomorrow? I've looked into some things through a lawyer friend. The next morning, Becky left Amy with Sarah and met Richard at a cafe. He seemed calmer than before, and there was a change in his attitude. As soon as Becky sat down, he apologized. First, I want to apologize for my behavior. It's understandable that you thought I was monitoring you. I was just worried about you and Amy. Becky said nothing, waiting for him to continue. I looked into Mike Foster. Richard lowered his voice. Apparently, he caused trouble in his previous town too. Suspicion of stalking. What? Becky's voice rose. I can't say for certain, but I got some information through a contact. He apparently once worked as an electronics specialist. At that information, Becky felt a shiver. Have you told the police? Of course, Richard tried to take her hand, but Becky reflexively pulled away. He looked hurt but quickly showed understanding. I'm sorry. I should have kept my distance. I don't know if we should go back to our house. Becky said, looking lost. You shouldn't go back yet, Richard said firmly. Amy's safety comes first. The police would agree. That afternoon, Detective Morrison contacted her. Preliminary investigations into Mike Foster had uncovered complaint records from his previous town. While there wasn't conclusive evidence of stalking, a woman had expressed concerns about him. We're tailing him, Detective Morrison said. I recommend staying away with your child until we gather more evidence. Over the weekend, Becky decided to return home briefly with Richard to collect some of Amy's belongings. Following police warnings, they chose a short period during daylight. As they approached the house, Becky felt her stomach knotting with tension. When Richard parked the car, Mike emerged from the neighboring house. He waved with his usual smile. Becky! You're back. I was worried. Richard positioned himself in front of her. Please don't speak to her. Mike looked confused. Did something happen? How's Amy? Speak to the police, Richard hurried Becky into the house. Once inside, Becky exhaled deeply. Thank you. It's only natural, Richard closed the door and locked it. Let's quickly gather what we need. While collecting clothes and toys in Amy's room, Becky looked out the window. Mike was standing in the garden, staring at the house. There was something in his expression that Becky had never seen before. A cold calculation beneath the surface kindness. Richard, she called with a trembling voice. Look. As Richard approached the window, Mike noticed and put on a smile, waving. However, that smile didn't reach his eyes. Let's hurry, Richard said quietly. Let the police gather sufficient evidence. Adjusting the small microphone on her chest, Becky looked anxiously at the police officer. Detective Morrison nodded reassuringly. We're constantly monitoring. If there's any problem, we'll intervene immediately. A cooperation plan with the police was underway. Investigations into Mike's past had revealed that he had worked as an electronics specialist and that suspicious behavior had been reported at his previous address. The evidence was circumstantial, but to obtain more concrete proof, Becky had agreed to act as bait. Amy continued to stay safely at Sarah's house, with Richard remaining there to watch over her. Their relationship was still complicated, but they were cooperating toward the common goal of their daughter's safety. Act naturally, Detective Craig gave final instructions. The aim is to lead him to confess. Becky returned home and pretended to go about her normal routine. As expected, Mike came to visit in the evening. He had a small bouquet in his hand. How are you feeling? And Amy? Everyone's been worried. Thank you, Mike, Becky managed to smile. It was just a family issue. Amy is still at my sister's house. I see. So you're alone tonight. A strange light appeared in Mike's eyes. Let me know if you need anything. Becky invited him into the house and offered coffee. The conversation was superficially calm, but Becky gradually steered the topic toward what had been found in Amy's hair, as planned. Actually, something strange happened last week. When I was washing Amy's hair, I found something small and black. Mike's expression froze momentarily. What did you find? The doctor called it a listening device. Can you believe it? Someone was monitoring us. That's horrifying, Mike said, carefully choosing his words. Could it have been your ex-husband? It wasn't Richard. He has an alibi. Silence fell. Mike began nervously rotating his coffee cup. It's strange, Becky continued. That day, Amy said, my head started itching after Uncle Mike gave me cookies. Mike's hand trembled. Are you saying I planted it? No one said you planted it. I just wanted to protect you. At those words, the air in the room froze. Mike's expression changed, and a cold light appeared in his eyes. I've known about you for a long time. Since before the divorce. I found your pictures online, and then. He stood up. That man wasn't worthy of you. I could make you happy. Despite feeling terrified, Becky maintained her composure. So you were listening to us. I wanted to know you. The real you, Mike approached. Now you understand. How much I. The door burst open, and police officers rushed in. Mike turned around with a surprised expression and tried to resist but was quickly subdued. Mike Foster, you're under arrest on suspicion of stalking, Detective Craig's voice resonated. Becky collapsed into a chair, hugging her trembling knees. It was over. Finally over.